legal issues. Hi, everybody. I'm David Asson. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Bill Baldwin, Sabrina Schaefer, John Tamny, and Bruce Jackson. So, John, are these legal issues going to make a difference?
I think they could. The Clinton swagger is not their own. The global initiative is large precisely because Bill and Hillary can influence a government that spends nearly $4 trillion a year. So particularly if the economy is the #1 issue, it's going to bother voters that they've amassed so much wealth and so much power on the backs of the taxpayers themselves. All
right, Rich, so character will matter more than the economy this time?
Yeah, well, possibly, but that cuts both ways. Therefore, it neutralizes itself because Trump has a lot of character problems, too. Look, a couple of weeks ago, Trump said something very valuable. He said to be a secure nation, we need to be a rich nation. This is where he needs to concentrate, and really lay out detail in an optimistic Reagan-esque way.
All right. But, Sabrina, the character issue, and particularly with Hillary, the email situation is really beginning to bother a lot of people. We did a poll. Fox News had a poll. Hillary's email problems are a big problem, not only for Republicans, obviously, but look at this. Independents, a third of the country is independents. 64% of them think that Hillary's lying. Even Democrats are bothered by it, 35%.
Now, this is a huge problem, David, and Quinnipiac had a similar poll which found that 59% of voters don't trust Hillary Clinton and 58% don't trust Donald Trump. So both of them are doing terribly in the sense that people don't think of them as honest or trustworthy. And I think what we have to remember is that politics is personal, so it's hard to have a good, solid conversation about the substantive economic issues if the candidates are people that the public can't relate to.
Emac, so if they cancel each other out on the character issue, maybe economics will be an important part of the election.
I think economics, you're right. I think it is the most important thing. I mean, people are saying, all right, $10 trillion spent under President Obama. What did we get? We got low-paying MIC jobs, minimum wage jobs, food stamps going up, usage there, health care costs going up. And then we have Hillary Clinton turning to possibly Elizabeth Warren as a vice presidential pick. I'm wondering when Elizabeth Warren is going to sic her Consumer Protection Agency on health reform with the high cost there.
Oh, that's right. That'd be a good thing. Bruce, the crooked charge that Donald made against Hillary it does seem to be sticking. Again, going back to our poll, a lot of people think that she is crooked, 49%. Then, on the other hand, Hillary calls Trump a fraudster. A fewer number of people think that sticks. How do you think it's all going to turn out?
Well, you know what's interesting here? I mean, in this day and age, you can't escape the attacks. I think the attacks anymore and how they respond to them are now part of the vetting process. I mean, Hillary Clinton, let's face it, has been attacked for decades. She went before a congressional panel and whatever. And how Donald is responding to the Trump University saga by attacking the judge is going to his character, and that's why his poll numbers are dropping in the Fox poll by 6 points.
Okay, so, Bill, how does all this turn out in the election?
I think basically, David, you're right that they're evenly divided, these two candidates, in terms of trustworthiness and integrity. After all, they're both...
Lack of is more to the point.
They're both crony capitalists. They're both liars. So, yes, it will be the economics of the country that will determine the election.
John, are you reconsidering this? Because your colleagues think that character is going to go to far second point. The economy will be #1.
Well, the economy always and everywhere defines the mood of the electorate, and that's my point. Richard Nixon had a lousy economy, so Watergate felled him. Monica Lewinsky did not fell Clinton because the economy was booming. If the electorate feels like the economy is not doing well and they see these non-innovators having gotten rich off of being in government, that is going to hurt Hillary Clinton.
And, Rich, there is something about the work that these two people have done that might define how their economic policies will work out. You look at the Clinton Foundation and all the quid pro quo stuff that was going on there that bothers a lot of people. You look at the emails with Donald Trump and you look at his relationship with politicians. Doesn't all that, their business, tell you something about how they would govern as president?
Yeah, it does. To John's point, I mean, even Trump, and to Bill's point, Trump is a kind of crony capitalist. Compared to the capitalist heroes I see every day in Silicon Valley, I'm not that all impressed with Donald Trump as a business person. Nevertheless, his business experience trumps Hillary Clinton's, and that's why he should focus on getting the country rich again.
Well, Sabrina, we talked about this before. The only person running who actually created real jobs in the private sector is Donald Trump. I think it was about 30,000 of them.
And he should really be, using that to his advantage. The fact is, when people talk about that the economy is important to them, they're really talking about, that's a catch-all phrase for personal things like their job security and their wages or their salary and the cost of living. That's where he could come in, and that's where, unfortunately, Hillary Clinton is usually, ahead of him, talking about the minimum wage or paid leave or equal pay. He ought to be, really running with this.
Emac, there's another issue with the Hillary versus Trump thing, is that a lot of people, in fact, the Wall Street Journal had a big piece on it this week, they just don't find Hillary to be genuine. Donald Trump, think what you will. He may be a huckster, he may be fast-talking huckster, whatever, a New Yorker that a lot of people don't like, but he's an original. He's one of these American originals.
You're right, David.
And Hillary doesn't have that same kind of substance.
Right, because Donald Trump talks with you, not at you. And Hillary Clinton, the Clintons have this perverse logic of victimhood that's always going on, so they're always top-spinning things.
Right.
But, the other thing, too, is that Rich Kroger nailed it, and that is optimism. We've had 8 years under Obama of this dreary teachers, faculty, lounge kind of outlook, and negative against businesses, beating up on businesses. And then we've got a ballooning government, and John Tammy said it right, where these government workers, it's a $20 trillion almost government and federal deficit, and they treat their offices like their own entitlement program.
Bruce, let's stick on that for a second, because there is this sort of limits. It reminds me, of course, you're too young, but it reminds me of the days of the late 70s when you had these limits to growth. We have to cut back on fossil fuels, et cetera. You got to cut back on this and that and the other thing. Americans don't like that. They like to go big, and of course, the big person here in terms of the way they talk, I think, is more Trump than Hillary.
Well, I think that with Donald, he's got to start laying out what his policies are. I mean, with Obama, we know that unemployment when he went in there was high, and it's down to 5%. And I mean, I think that it will be interesting to see what happens in Congress and the next White House and where we go from here. But I think that the president inherited a bunch of baggage. But one of the things, I think it's going to be a long summer, because I don't think we're really going to get to any issues, unfortunately, until the debates.
Bill, every president, I'm sick of hearing that. Every president inherits a bunch of baggage. I mean, Ronald Reagan did, G.W. Bush did, of course, President Obama did. Is that really a fair argument to be made here?
It isn't. I mean, it's time to stop blaming everything on George Bush.
Kind of a whine,
but Bruce has a very good point about the lower unemployment rate, and I'm going to put some odds on all of this. I think there's a 25% chance that before November we'll be in a recession and Donald Trump will win, and a 75% chance that we won't be in a recession and Hillary will win.
So, John, it all depends on what the economy's doing in November.
It's always about the economy, and if it is seen to be weak, that is going to hurt Hillary, the party in power.
Okay, that's the last word, first and last word from John Tamny. As we rush to bring in 10,000 new Syrian refugees by the end of September, there are new reports ISIS posing as refugees are plotting terror attacks in Europe right now. Is it time to pause our program before it's too late? We debate, you decide, coming next.
I've been a poor man and I've been a king. I've had my life and the world on a string. I've traveled many roads, but I'm so far from done. Good to know there's so much to live for.
Moderate to severe Crohn's disease is tough, but I've managed. Except that managing my symptoms was all I was doing. And when I finally told my doctor, he said Humira is for adults like me who've tried other medications but still experience the symptoms of moderate to severe Crohn's disease. And that in clinical studies, the majority of patients on Humira saw significant symptom relief, and many achieved remission.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, remission is possible.
It is an entire transformation. It's like we have a new home.
Real customers share their stories about Empire today.
It's just that above and beyond that Empire is known for.
And during Empire's 50-50-50 sale, get 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
Empire's products are top-notch. The carpeting, the flooring, it's phenomenal. I'm so happy we selected Empire.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Rejuvenate is the #1 selling floor care product at the Home Depot. Rejuvenate's super concentrated formula is the only floor finish that renews your floors in only one easy mop-on application. It fills and scratches, restores shine, and protects hardwood, laminate, linoleum, vinyl, and ceramic tile. And Rejuvenate's cabinet and furniture store puts on a protective mirror-like shine that lasts for years. Rejuvenate is available at these fine retailers or at rejuvenateproducts.com.
You have a vision. It's behind everything you do. Even when you least expect it, it comes through. You know what you want, and we can help make it real. You need choices? We've got all kinds, including special finishes and papers. And they're all absolutely guaranteed. Because you have a vision, and we have your card. 500 start at just $9.99 when you enter BC500 at Vistaprint.com.
Live from America's election headquarters in Washington, good Saturday morning. I'm Elizabeth Pran. Some very tragic news to report. Christina Grimmie, a 22-year-old singer famous for competing on the popular TV show The Voice, was fatally shot late last night in Orlando, Florida. A gunman opening fire as she was signing autographs for fans outside a concert venue where she had just performed. The gunman then took his own life. The singer finished in 3rd place on season 6 of The Voice. And in other news, a spectacular sight in the skies over New York City. Very early this morning, a solar plane flies past the Statue of Liberty as it finishes crossing the United States before landing at JFK Airport. It's trying to become the very first plane to circle the globe using the sun as the plane's only source of power. This was the 14th leg of the journey. Coming up next, the Atlantic and flying over Europe. I'm Elizabeth Pran. Now back to Forbes on Fox.
We'll talk about bad timing as the administration scrambles to resettle 10,000 new Syrian refugees in the U.S. by the president's September 30th deadline. New reports say ISIS members posing as refugees in Europe are plotting attacks over there. So, Emac, you say this is all the more reason why we should pause our refugee program here.
Yeah, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson and also FBI Director James Comey said that even with the 2-year waiting period for refugees to come in here, by the way, I support refugees coming into this country. They said even with the 2-year waiting period, they cannot properly vet these refugees who you just need one guy who can do a lot of destruction, right. David.
So, Bruce, just one guy could make it bad for everybody. Shouldn't we pause the program?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty much paused as it is. We've only admitted about 2,500. It's ground to a halt. It's going so slow. And I think that we should be looking at ways to speed it up. And the vetting process, I think, is solid.
Speed it up, Rich?
No. Look, you know, the argument on the other side is that America has always had this great tolerance or welcoming of immigrants. We're all of immigrants of some kind. We have a wonderful Constitution and Bill of Rights to guarantee our freedoms, but it's not a suicide pact.
Right. Right.
And I think that, you know, if we're not careful about this, we're, in a way, committing suicide as a country.
John, sometimes our ideals, including welcoming with open arms, welcoming refugees and so forth, sometimes you've got to be realistic about it. Sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe this is one of those times.
Well, this is not about ideals. Again, it's a 2 to 3 year process as is, and so it's hard to imagine that too many terrorists are going to wait that long. But let's assume we put a pause on. A pause is not a way to end terrorism. If terrorists want to get in, they're going to figure out a way. They just won't go through the normal refugee process. So I don't hear the solution here.
Yeah, well, Bill, maybe there isn't a solution, but at least we could take a step of stopping what might be a problem now.
No, I don't think we should eliminate Syrian immigration, but we should, for humanitarian reasons, limit it to women and children. Let the young men stay behind and clean up their country so they don't have to send their families abroad for safety.
I see John shaking his head no, but Sabrina, what do you think of that?
Well, I realize that there's a big difference between the million refugees